Highly favored one of the Lord, welcome to the Healing Streams Reflection. The title for today's post is From Marital Egypt to the Promised Land. When couples get married, they begin life together with big dreams for their future. Unfortunately, in spite of hoping that I do will assure living happily ever after, some of the marriage hit some bumps in the road. Familiar patterns begin to emerge in their conflicts. The interaction generally felt the same, regardless of what couples were arguing about. Eventually, some of them testify that after years of pain, disappointment, and frustration, they realized that they were in serious trouble. Like the Israelites, we had become slaves of habit, stuck in Egypt. But God's design is for marriages to reside in the promised land, the land flowing with milk and honey, as Exodus chapter 3 verse 8 informs us. So with the help of God, one marital couple told me our perseverance and some divine revelation. Both of them told me that now they have been married for more than 25 years and are both thrilled with their marriage. It's not perfect, they said, but it is a real life love story filled with all the components of an amazing adventure. With what we've personally learned over the years, in addition to our work with my brothers and sisters as Prayer World Temple Ministries, our work with thousands of couples that we've met, it's very, very important for us to understand that a lot of them marriages have been a blessing. Others too, they are still trusting God because their marriages are work in progress. And for us, we have learned how to make marriages work. And others too have told me we learn how to make our own marriages full of new passion, lasting joy, and renewed hope work. Beloved, you too, as a marital couple, can go from being stuck in Egypt to being firmly rooted in the promised land. But first, you must be willing to risk leaving the familiarity of Egypt and stepping out in faith into the wilderness that may seem scary. But it's in this open space that you gain the knowledge and skills which make way for the Lord to begin healing and empowering you and your spouse. Beloved, it's very, very important for you to understand that marriage is a gracious institution. And people come from all over the world sometimes to ask a lot of questions concerning marriage, especially when we are having marital programs, especially to when those couples' relationship is in trouble. But we have seen miracle after miracle occur before our eyes, in as few as most of them will try to make it work. Most people can't believe it's possible to turn around a marriage on the brink of divorce in such short a time. But our God is that big and is that committed to taking us to the promised land. All we do is identify the obstacles, move them out of the way, and stand back and watch. Few things will build your faith faster than watching the powerful hand of God transform hearts and relationships before your eyes. Beloved, all of us have bottoms or emotional hotspots that are connected with our personal core fears. When our spouse pushes these bottoms and we react, we get into what I call the fear dance. We describe the basic cycle that has you stuck in Egypt. When couples or one of them pushes the bottoms, one of them react to cope with the core fears almost without fail. You realize that some of them reaction will push one of them and in turn also react. But most often, the woman's reaction will again push one of the man's bottoms and will get into over dizzying dance. Amazingly, we have found that all couples do this dance from time to time. Once you identify their fear bottoms and reactions, my dear brother, my dear sister, and then visually plot them on a chart, they shake their heads and say, that's it. That's exactly what we do. What does the fear dance look like for you? Number one, you hurt. When you are wounded, you feel emotions like disconnection, frustration, embarrassment, worry, and rage. Two, you want. When you hurt, you want a solution. You want your spouse to change or do something to end your hurt, thereby giving you what you want. Your misplaced expectation causes you to see the other person as both your problem and your solution. When you expect your spouse to fulfill all your wants, you'll be disappointed and the result will be fear. Thirdly, you fear. You want to be accepted, but you are afraid you aren't good enough. You want respect, but you worry that the other person will look down on you. Your entire anxieties actually reflect your wants. So when you feel your wants won't be fulfilled, you experience fear. You react to avoid fearing that your wants will not be fulfilled. You react. You may feel losing control, so you try to seize control. You may be afraid of losing connection, so you try to seize connection. Here's what will end the fear dance. Choose not to react by pushing your spouse's buttons in an attempt to make him or her stop pushing yours. Recognizing your own cycle and being willing to deal with it is the first step towards leaving Egypt. So how do you get from Egypt to the promised land? If you are serious about wanting a thriving marriage, this next key is the foundation for finding way to attain it. A promised land marriage is one where both individuals feel totally safe with each other's other emotionally, physically, and spiritually. In fact, being in the presence of your spouse should feel like the safest place in the world. This was the single most significant thing I learned about turning our disastrous relationship towards success. Sadly, very few people feel that their marriage is the safest place in the world, including those who consider theirs good. Big safety is so important. And why am I claiming this? Is the easiest way to a great marriage. We were all created by God to long for a deep, intimate connection with others, particularly a special someone like our spouse. Since the definition of intimacy is two people opening their hearts to each other and sharing who they are, openness is critical if intimacy is to occur, let alone prove satisfying. When we feel unsafe or threatened in any way, our natural reaction is self-protection. This generally involves closing down, building walls, or distancing ourselves in some way, such as by withdrawal or anger. In order to feel safe, we may even try to change or control our spouse, which makes him or her feel unsafe. A closed heart and spirit makes true intimacy impossible. However, when people feel safe, they will generally open up. Why? Because protecting oneself and being on guard all the time is exhausting. Openness requires less energy than maintaining defenses, and it just feels better. And when two people whose hearts are open come near each other, intimacy occurs without any effort. Suddenly, I did many things in the early years of my marriage that made my wife feel emotionally unsafe. I didn't realize I was doing it, nor did I intend for it to happen. Generally, my attitude and behavior was the result of ignorance and insensitivity. For instance, anytime I'll get upset with my wife, I want to share with her what she was doing that I didn't like and what I wanted her to do differently. Seems reasonable, doesn't it? For some strange reason, she was never very excited about those conversations. After a while, she'll want to get away from me and will attempt to leave. Believing that we needed to work this out, I would follow her wherever she went until one day she locked herself in the bathroom and then climbed out of the window and drove off to escape me. All I wanted to do was to talk. But the truth is, not honoring or respecting my wife's right to have space when she wants it isn't creating a safe place for her. Neither is seeing her as both the problem and the solution. My wife did not trust me with her heart, and she had good reason. But when I began making her emotional safety a priority, she eventually began to feel safe with me and increasingly opened her heart towards me. Then when I began taking full responsibility for my own feelings and behavior, it got even better. I am confident today that she feels safer with me than anywhere else in the world. As a result, we now have deeply satisfied intimacy in our marriage. So give it a shot. Ask yourself and your spouse how safe your marriage feels and what you do that makes the relationship feel less safe. Understanding the fear dance can be extremely helpful in stopping the madness when conflict occurs, as it is inevitably will. Then focusing on creating safety can begin to move you towards the marriage of your dreams. These two concepts provide a foundation for learning to take personal responsibility as well as caring for yourself, your mate, and your marriage. Each step you take to understand your God-designed relationship DNA brings you closer to enjoying a marriage that can become the safest place in the world. See you in the promised land.